All of this for $40. This is just insane. Hello, today I welcome you to Marvel the Watches, and in this video we are taking a look at this Addiesdive MY3-2 or just Divers 200. This is an ultra budget sub homage offering from Addiesdive that I picked up on the 11/11 AliExpress sale. It was a purchase of 3 watches. We already reviewed the Pagani Design PD1701 and also the Parnspre Nautilus homage. It is just weird to me how much of watch you can actually get for $40. That is for the Americans. For the Europeans it's a little bit more than that, comes in at around 47 euros, but it's still just baffling to me on how much you can get for such a low price. It comes with a screw down crown, solid end links, a very decent bracelet, 200 meters of water resistance, a ceramic bezel, BGW9 lume, and a Miyota quartz movement. Visually and spec wise, I really want to say that this is the most you can get for the lowest budget possible. You won't be able to buy a proper automatic watch for this money. From the quartz line there are also not that many options that come close to this watch, and you cannot really go and buy a new unworn G-Shock either for this price, which is also a very different watch. So basically I think it is safe to say that this watch uses the most out of the $40. Okay, let's quit rambling and let me show you this watch. So firstly, the boring stuff, but in this case quite useful, which is the packaging that this watch comes in. It is very neat that Addiesdive includes this plastic case pretty much on all of their watches, and again this is very useful as you can use this box as a carrying case. I used mine when traveling to Malta, just took off all of the bands and fits about 5 watches inside, so not only is it safe for the shipping of the watch, but it also gets another life afterwards. Inside of it there are the basic things like a warranty card, instructions manual, and also they add a little sizing tool for the bracelet. It has classic measurements for a Submariner Homage. It is 41mm in diameter, the lug-to-lug size is about 48mm, thickness is 13mm, the lug width is 20mm, tapers down to 18mm at the clasp, and sized up for my roughly 7-inch wrist, it weighs 140 grams. I do have to say that this watch is one of the most comfortable that I've ever worn. It just sits so nicely on wrist, it doesn't get in the way of anything you do, whether it would be daily activities or anything else. Me personally, I'm usually wearing a G-Shock every day just for its lightweight and low keyness, but right now I constantly find myself wearing this one instead of the G-Shock, as you pretty much can feel it on wrist. It is extremely comfortable and easy to read, and yeah, it replaces the G-Shock quite a bit now that I got it. In my opinion, they've done a very good job with the measurements. Now, the bracelet was one of the points because of which I was really scared to buy this watch. I thought, you know, this watch is really cheap, and usually when a brand tries to cut costs, they do it by making a bracelet as cheap as possible. For example, it is very visible on the Orient Kamasu, which I just reviewed. On this one, however, I was pleasantly surprised. It has a very basic finishing to it, polished middle links, brushed outer links, and then polished sides. Nothing too crazy, the polishing is very basic, and as you can see, I already have a few scratches on it as I've been wearing this watch a lot lately. It has a basic pressed metal clasp, not the best, but it gets the job done. It uses push pins for sizing, and it is also a solid end link bracelet as mentioned before. The main thing that concerned me about the bracelet when I looked at the reviews was that it has a lot of play to it. As you can see, it wobbles quite a bit, but what I didn't expect is that it makes it a lot more comfortable. You can kind of compare it to the Jubilee bracelet of Seiko, which is very loose, but that is what makes it comfortable. Now, this probably was not intentional, and the wobble appears not because the bracelet was meant to be like that, but rather because it was made on a budget, but it is very comfortable. It doesn't rattle on wrist, doesn't make a lot of noises, and the cheap clasp also works quite well and doesn't rattle that much also, like I thought it would. Again, for $40, it is way more than I could have expected. And the Addiesdive keeps on giving. As you can see, you also get a very nicely designed caseback. Not too important as the watch face is on the other side, but still, it is very nicely done. As always, you get gibberish, which is not really necessary, such as Deep Sea Hunter or Divers 200, which I want to mention is not true. This watch is not certified. There's also a very nice emblem in the middle, which is a little bit different than on the steel dive that I have. It doesn't have the diving fins as well as the oxygen tanks. What's left is diver's glasses and a couple of fishing spears. The caseback is screw on, and it hides a Miyota 2115 quartz movement, which is a very basic quartz movement. You can't really expect much more. I'm very glad that they didn't go for a Chinese quartz, but rather chose a Japanese one, and it gets the job done perfectly. The battery has a lifespan of about 3 years, and again, quartz will save you the hassle of setting up the time each time that you leave your watch for a longer period of time, and plus with all of that, it will be more accurate along the line. This watch also has not only the screw-on case back, but a screw-down crown as well, which gives it 200 meters of water resistance, so you can easily go for a swim with this watch, do some snorkeling. I'm not very sure about the diving part, as you still have to remember that this is a very cheap Chinese watch. Nobody certified the actual timepiece to be capable of going for a dive, so me personally, I wouldn't be that brave, but if you decide to go for it, let me know. Now we come to the case and its finishes. It has the maxi case design, which is very lovely. I really like that the lugs are not too bulky like they are on some of the other Submariner homages. Again, classic finishes, brushing on top and polishing on the sides. The bezel also has a brushed finish with the indentations being polished. It also has a nice signed crown, which again features the same logo as the case back. Very nicely done, a lot of detail. Not the same finishing though like on the rest of the case, but it makes it stand out and I'm not very mad about it. There's not much to say about the finishes other than the fact that they're done very nicely. For the price, I couldn't ask for more. Now we come to another astonishing thing about this watch, which is the bezel. It has a proper 120 click unidirectional bezel. The action is actually really good. It has practically no playback, it performs how it should and sounds great. That is not the astonishing part. The astonishing part is that it is a ceramic bezel, which is usually found on watches with a way higher price tag. The ceramic also means that it won't scratch up as the aluminum bezel does, so it will wear much better, and it also looks a lot nicer as it has a different shine to it, even though it is all black. Now, just before we go onto the dial, I really want to note that this watch has a mineral crystal, not a sapphire mineral, so it will scratch up after a little bit of time. To get a sapphire for $40 with all of these different specifications on the side as well would be a miracle, so I think it is understandable why they use a mineral crystal. What I like about it is that it has a blue tint to it. The Cyclops has it as well. It is a very nice effect that appears in the sunlight and adds a little bit of life to the watch. The Cyclops also magnifies how it should. It works great and is aligned properly. And now finally we come to the part which you see the most, the dial. The dial itself is glossy and has some shine to it, which again I really like. It makes the watch look a tad more expensive. It uses the big bulky indices, which is a very good choice. I don't really like the so-called nipple indices, which used to come on older versions of Rolex Submariners, and Invicta still uses them on their models, so this design is way more pleasant to me. They're very easily readable and look way better in my opinion. The only problem that I see is that the triangular indice at 12 o'clock is a little bit crooked to the left. It is so minor that you can barely see it, but you can see that the gap between 11 and 12 o'clock is not the same as the gap between 11 and 1 o'clock. It is a very minor thing and hardly visible, but it is there. There is a date window at 3 o'clock, it has a silver box around it, nothing really special but again done properly. They were very modest with the writings. On the top there is the Addiesdive logo, then the name just below that, and then on the bottom there is the Diver 200, which again I want to repeat myself, this watch is not certified, so the diver's part shouldn't be on the dial. The thing that you might have caught already is the hands themselves. They go pretty well with the whole design, but the thing is that they look very cheap. They seem very thin and the hour's hand is really short. The second hand also could reach a little bit more of the dial, and when you look at it for a longer period of time, they start to separate themselves from the rest of the layout. The cheapness is really visible in this part. Not a huge deal, and for the price understandable, but still it is something to note. And lastly, it also has a simple brushed stainless steel chapter ring, which also goes very well with the design, and I'm glad that they didn't put the brand name on this part. So overall the dial is very nicely done and it looks great in the sunlight, but you can see that there are some imperfections which take away from the beauty of it. The Lume is just outstanding and really unexpected for this price. In the listing it says that it uses BGW9 Lume, and I believe every word of it. It is very strong and it stays up for a very long time. Steel Dive and Addiesdive watches are known for the Lume, and this one is no exception. It is very bright and very visible in the dark. Both the bezel and the dial are very heavily lumed. They didn't cheap out on the Lume, and it is evident that there are many coats applied. It is a very nice addition to this watch and again makes it a lot more practical. So now my final thoughts about this watch. I just cannot recommend it enough. I think it is worth every single penny, and for basically a dinner at a restaurant, you can get a very decent timepiece. It is not perfect by any means, but it is just baffling to me how much of a watch Chinese manufacturers can give you for $40. It is not only a perfect beater watch that you can easily take to a swim with you, but also I think it is nice enough to go out and about or even pair it with a suit, and it is just fun to wear in general when you know the price and when you know that that you don't have to baby this watch as it costs so little, and if you want to you can easily replace it. It becomes very easy to wear and not think about it. There are also other colors to choose from which make the watch even more interesting and fun to wear. So to conclude this, I really like this watch, and if you like the design, I think you should try it too. So there you go, here's my full review on the Addiesdive MY3-2 aka Divers 200. It is just such a fun watch to wear, and I also had a lot of fun reviewing it. Even though it is a very simple timepiece, I just cannot get enough of it. My plan was just to review it and sell it, but now I constantly find myself wearing this watch pretty much each and every day. It is extremely comfortable, has great specifications, and comes at a very low price. Basically, all of these things combined give me a very enjoyable watch. So if you have spare $40 to spend, I highly recommend you to try this watch out. As always, the link will be in the description down below, and if you like this video, please leave a like and also consider subscribing and hitting that little bell so you'll get notified when I upload a new video. And now thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.